If you've never heard of Flowers Are Dead, good. It's a PS4 indie game that one can only imagine was made to claim Life of Black Tiger's throne of worst PS4 game. It grew infamous for a trailer on Sony's official YouTube page that was nothing but a few shots of static pre-made asset scenery with absolutely no music, dialogue, or things happening. Naturally, a WTF that massive attracted the attention of about every bad game hunter on the internet, and now it's my turn to crap down that shitter. You kinda start to figure out that you're in trouble when the game brings up a list of controls and all that's on it is move, look, and interact. Why does the game specifically tell you to only use audio logs one at a time? And why is interact mapped to the right shoulder button? You spawn in a forest full of cheap asset flip benches and tents, some of which clip into the surrounding scenery. You move like a snail with a bad hip, and it takes an excruciatingly long time to walk around this tiny, closed-in map. You're dropped in here with no direction, guidance, or context. You just look for things to interact with. Everywhere you see clusters of fireflies gathered around flower patches, tents, and stairs, so your first instinct is to check all the fireflies, but most of them either mark items that do nothing or they don't mark anything at all. I just wander around each spot, hoping I find something that does anything. Pretty soon I stumble across a tape recorder that lays out some semblance of a story. You play as a guy named Evelyn, maybe it's a British thing, and a doctor is interrogating you to try and figure out what happened to your girlfriend Ariel that's gone missing. I've already found flyers spelling out that a cult lives at this campsite and there's blood everywhere, so I think we've cracked this mystery. Except the therapist out of nowhere breaks the fourth wall to tell you the game is half an hour long, even though it has nothing at all to do with what they're talking about, and then she brings up time travel.
I'm pretty sure all that talking you've done has equated to half an hour's worth of gameplay in the real world. Been monitoring you throughout your phases. You seem you can handle the toll of going back in time.
Is there any chance I can get a doctor that's not high as a kite? Not long after, I stumbled across two tape recorders that I couldn't interact with at all. I thought I'd broken the game because I had just tried to interact with a tape more than once, but I restarted the game twice and double-checked. This game that's built around finding tapes has tapes that just don't work.
You had one job. One job.
While we're on the topic of glitches, they messed up the skybox to where the clouds are full of flickering black specks. Sometimes the pick-up prompt doesn't go away, so all the subtitles are muddled, and if you try to listen to multiple tapes at once, which it's very possible to do, the tapes talk over one another and the subtitles overlay, so it's all incomprehensible gibberish.
The 33-degree club.
It's an e-meter.
Explains why all
It
these
helps
TVs
delve
are
back in
pegged.
time and sort of sink
I
into the
signed
ground.
up to be a
Why
part of
relive
that.
your projected
Didn't
memories?
even get a reply back.
How do you screw up a game this simple, this badly? I slowly wander around the camp finding more recordings, which are all so full of uninformative fluff that there doesn't seem to be any order to them. This is so boring. Each tape is just Evelyn finding new ways to say, I don't know anything, why am I here? And it always takes him a few full minutes to stammer it out. Each of these tapes is well over a minute long, so if you actually give a crap about the story, you have to sit on your ass for what feels like a small eternity every time you find one to keep them from talking over one another. One of the tapes states that this campsite is actually some kind of mind palace or hypnotic state that Evelyn has been inceptioned into, but then one of the objects you can find is an obelisk that a rich guy paid to place into the imaginary camp. So what, he bought real estate inside Evelyn's brain? Is that commentary on advertising, or is it just stupid? I'm going with stupid because the doctor tells you to see what you can learn from these obelisks, but there's only one in the entire map, and it doesn't do shit. One of the tapes talks about how Evelyn and Ariel tried to join this cult called the 33-degree Club, which is apparently a cult built around people talking about how flowers are dead.
They're all talking about how flowers die. Something about flowers are dead. Apparently it's quite the craze here.
This must be a cult of very bored people. Okay, developer, I know that you think your title is the most brilliant, deep, and mind-blowing thought ever, but if an entire cult of people was built around talking about flowers being dead, then that cult is made out of stoners so baked out of their minds that you could sell them as wedding cakes. Eventually, I find an audio log of Evelyn talking to himself. He's going to try and keep from telling the doc anything about Ariel because he's kind of figured out that the doctor is evil. Given that one of the logs has the doc proclaiming that she's thousands of years old, it's good to know the guy can take a hint when beaten over the head with a clue stick.
We too have been there for thousands of years.
Evelyn apparently knows that a second secret evil cult, the People of the Rain, is after Ariel, And then out of nowhere the screen reads "going back in time" and you appear at a mansion. One of the many things in this game that I could not make up if I tried. Oh, and if you notice the footage just hang up for a few seconds there, it's not the playback or my editing software. Even though this game isn't rendering any characters or moving objects, it still freezes all the damn time. The mansion is dark as hell. I can't see a damn thing on my TV. The gameplay has now regressed to me wandering around a black screen hoping to find an object that does something. Instead, I find a few apples, an excerpt from a short story, The People of the Rain, a photograph of a tree, a newspaper article about flowers on the moon, and a crumpled up note of a pyramid with an eyeball drawn on it, none of which has dick one to do with anything that's going on. Am I missing something here? Probably because I can't see anything! Eventually, I stumble across a staircase that I guess leads to Evelyn's room, and the dude then proceeds to tell his life story for about 5 shittin' minutes. He babbles on about how he was all alone until Ariel spontaneously appeared out of nowhere, super eager to be his friend to the point of basically stalking him, and Evelyn is such a devoid of personality piece of white bread that none of this set off any red flags for him. Ariel left him a big surprise in his dad's super secret underground office, because that's a thing that can happen, but Evelyn never got to see it. But the doctor points out that this is a dream sequence and he can go wherever he wants. So Evelyn wills himself to sink into the floor into his dad's office, and what does he find? A receipt from keeping a horse at a stable! Why am I surprised that the big reveal is some bullshit that had nothing to do with anything? You then find a recording of a sobbing Ariel who states that they're both about to die. Then she spends over a minute blubbering out that she's sorry, doesn't get around to saying what she's sorry for because at this point I doubt the writer even knows, and cut to black. Game's over. All has been revealed. The end.
What is this?
Listen to it, Evelyn. But remember, flowers don't die.
Oh, stop saying that. The only thing that phrase means is that your head is lodged up your ass. So, what? Just to double check that I've got all this straight, the entire story is Evelyn fell for a girl, they tried to join a cult, then she ran to escape a different cult, and now the second cult is trying to hunt Ariel down. I didn't skip anything, I didn't gloss over any details, and this dirt simple rock stupid story was so complicated and important that we had to track down audio logs in a mechanically induced dreamscape with time travel to piece it together. And what the hell was the significance of the first call at the campsite if they and the camp don't have shit to do with Ariel's disappearance? You need to have an actual plot before you can throw red herrings into it. And the cherry on top, the game apparently ends with our protagonist having accomplished absolutely nothing and getting killed. Only maybe it doesn't.
I sank into the floor. I did what you asked. I've walked through the camp again. I've seen changes, but no trace of her.
See, one of the tapes at the start of the game references the game's ending, and both Evelyn and the doctor mention going through the camp multiple times looking for changes in the game world. So is the game implying that the story is some kind of infinite loop where every time you play the game is a new crack at interrogating Evelyn? And the doc mentions being able to go further back in time. Is the game insinuating that there's a secret extra level? Rather overly optimistic of anybody playing this game more than once. See, I want to see if there's a secret ending, but I don't want to spend another few hours wandering through empty fields doing nothing to find it. I took another whack at the game to test my theory that the game was teasing changes or a hidden ending, and near as I can tell, it was full of crap, if that's even what those lines were meant to imply. Thanks to a video from a PS4 trophy hunter, I found that there are a ton of hidden items in the mansion that I didn't know about. Such vital, lore-giving secrets as a list of cheat codes for the first Tomb Raider game, a VHS tape with the dev's name and logo, and a test Evelyn was taking before he got bored and drew a horse. There's a hidden tape outright telling you that Ariel and the doctor are in the People of the Rain cult that wants Evelyn, but nowhere does the game tell you what this cult does or why they want this pasty, whiny, useless tool. Do they want to sacrifice him? Do they want his money? Are they just hard up for members? Don't know, for as it is written in the shitty writer's Bible, once you write the word cult in the script, you don't have to explain shit. It worked for Erica. I don't know if it was curiosity, a drive for complete videos, or my lack of self-confidence, but I tried. I tried to give this game the benefit of the doubt that maybe its devs knew what they were talking about and I was too dense to get it. So I went back to the game, adjusted the TV's contrast so I could see properly, and wandered around that damn mansion, grabbing every audio log and scrap of paper that I could find, trying to dig up whatever meaning the dev thinks they buried in here. Maybe just once I could find a hidden gem or smart game instead of pretentious horse crap? Maybe? There are several documents heavily implying that both Evelyn's parents are already in the same cult as the Doc and Ariel, followed by a tape of him telling this to Ariel, except Ariel says in the final tape she didn't want Evelyn finding out about the cult that he already knows about. And one sheet of paper has Evelyn directly stating that he knows about the cult starting wars and toppling countries, and has him reporting on efforts in Argentina like he's already in the cult. You find documents that Evelyn has a pet horse named Honeymooner, and one audio log has him say that the horse talks to him. So is that meant to imply that Evelyn is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and he's hallucinating that every single person he knows is in a cult? Because near as I can tell, the horse has dick to do with anything else. One of the audio logs outright states that Evelyn can physically bring these documents that you find back from his dreams and memories like this was frickin' Nightmare on Elm Street. The short story has the same name as the cult and makes reference to a red shield if the god of this world is money, and Evelyn's last name Strulovich is blatantly Russian, so is the cult a bunch of communists, maybe? The short story also makes reference to an inner self, and hidden tapes with the doctor have her stressing that they're trying to help Evelyn discover his inner self through love with Ariel. But then why is the cult going to all this trouble if they're set on killing the two of them? Evelyn's dad has a letter that calls them shining white horses in a sea of black horses, which seems to have white supremacist overtones, and you find a document claiming that Evelyn's dad is head of a eugenics company, I don't think they know what that word means, and he's dealing in a shitload of hallucinogenic drugs, which ties into nothing. There's an email from Ariel that the world is an illusion and you should buy gold. Another email saying to fear the beast, along with a time travel plan paper with "In Satan We Trust" written on it and plans to kill someone's father. There's another paper that reads "I will not pledge allegiance to the Lucians" over and over, and I searched on Google. That term means nothing. One tape has the doc claim that Ariel's love has woken him up, but then she complains in an email you can find that Evelyn's problem is a lack of conformity, and the cult symbol is the Illuminati. Man, fuck this! It's gibberish! This game is complete gibberish! It's designed to look and sound halfway deep and intelligent at a passing glance, but the second you take a closer look, the entire thing collapses. It plays like they couldn't settle on what the cult's deal is, so they just picked all of them, with a few hints that this may all be inside the main character's head, so none of it actually matters anyway, for good measure. There's a hidden, long audio log where the doctor sits down and tells Evelyn everything that's going on, and it still makes no sense. She babbles on about how love is part of a formula, what formula I don't explain, that love is a tactic and concept that the camp is pioneering. Evelyn and Ariel are both test subjects for what isn't clear, and Ariel woke Evelyn up, and flowers don't die because they latch onto something. Even when the game deliberately tries to sit down and lay everything out, it can't express anything vaguely resembling a single coherent thought, because it's word vomit! Word vomit that's meant to sound smart, but much like actual vomit, doesn't perform or contain a single thing of value, no matter how much you sift through it. I went looking for meaning to prove to myself that I'm not just stupid, and I am now truly dumber for the effort. I dove down the rabbit hole, and all I found was bullshit. Flowers Are Dead is about 2 sentences of a story concept that was never finished, conveyed in the most obtuse and stupid means possible, and its sheer lack of completion or meaning covered up by vague nonsense exposition, 90% of which doesn't mean a damn thing, and throw in a few references to a pretentious title that means nothing in the hopes you sucker people into thinking it's deep, or hell, that's giving it too much credit. The story is, there's a cult. The end. The gameplay consists entirely of wandering around empty maps at a painfully, obnoxiously slow pace, looking for items that do nothing, hoping that you eventually find the anonymous item that ends the stage, and even as little of a game as there is here, it's still inexcusably bugged in the few remedial things that it sets out to do. I've heard the game is more or less a direct clone of a similar game called Gone Home, which was released in the halcyon days of everyone thinking that all walking simulators were brilliant. I've heard that Gone Home is shit, but I have heard of it, so maybe they're just trying to rip off something else that was successful. Either way, you want a real mystery story? Somebody solve the case of how this bullshit keeps getting onto the PlayStation 4.